go ahead and do that. Now, things to think about on the YZF is that there is a coolant channel that runs through here to here. So basically engine coolant runs through the center of these carburetors and comes out the other side. It's a tuning, it's a warm-up thing. It's a the warmer the carburetors are, the less chances of carby ice. These that go into cold confinements don't have to worry about that sort of shit here, but it helps the engine warm up quicker and helps it come off choke quicker. And coming off choke means using less fuel and better emissions. I'm just using a T-bar. This big bolt goes right through. So much better than the old way of doing it. Not a skerrick of rust or anything, and it looks like it's been buffed. To me, that's, yeah, I don't know. I'm in two minds of whether this has been apart before or not. Just aluminium spacers. Aluminium and steel don't like each other. I might just put those on there. Short one, all different lengths, of course. Just make it easy. Short one, long one, short one. Don't know. Might have been buffed up before, but definitely no marks or stains on it or anything. There's a stain or a thing on the end. It's definitely got no water that's come through there. That's almost brand new. That's one side. Now we'll do the bottom. Nice and tight. Get it all the way out. Whereas that one is a bit more rusty. It's got a bit more telltale mark that, yes, some coolant or some water's got onto that. Again, we have spacers. No, they're tubes for the fuel, and there's no, oh, there's one spacer. See that just appeared from here. One little spacer, and the aluminium takes up the others, so I might just drop that on there. Just, it's not going to come off there during the process. I can also see there's a, now it's spinning, there's this little aluminium piece here as well. It obviously sets the bottom up when it tightens up. Now I can guarantee that's going to drop out when you start to separate them. Yeah, we just want to separate them slowly. Alright, so separated. This spring here is pretty generic. We always have a spring in between each throttle linkage. Alright. They have the coolant tube with 2 O-rings on. Now these O-rings are not available. You have to buy the whole tube from Yamaha. I'm yet to source the actual O-rings themselves separately, and I think they would be a Viton type seal, and they look very, very good. And if I can't find them, the worst thing that I would, the only thing I would do, because I think that they're nice and proud, they're not going to leak, I might just take the end one off, which is doing all the work, and slip it on the inside, and you put the inside one on the end. But we'll see how that goes when they're cleaned up. We'll just work on the one. We also have another spring here that's just sitting there. It sits in between the tab for the second carburetor, and it holds the throttle. You can see that's quite loose. Alright, it's just floating around there on its own. There's this little spring here, not this one at the bottom. This one at the bottom is for the throttle adjustment, or the balance adjustment. Hold that tight. What this spring here does is it just holds on a flap on the other side, to secure this carburetor to that one, and that is just sitting there, so it's very easy to lose. It's just sprung in between the gap. Yeah, just sitting on two knobs. I'd rather take it off. Nothing else. Oh, there's another tube. There's a fuel tube. Okay, so the fuel comes through these. This is where a lot of the carburetors leak from, not usually from around the float bowl, or unless they're flooding. It comes from around these ones. Now those O-rings are pretty proud, and I think they're in the kit as well. It just sits in there. Fuel comes through to supply fuel for the float. And that, no, we have the choke thing to come off. I'll grab my 12. I don't know if that's going to settle in there or not. And that, the reason I didn't think it was going to settle in there is because it was loose. Choke plunger. When you pull the choke on, it pulls this plunger out. What that does, it gives the carburetor another air source through the top here. Through that hole in the top there, and it gives you a fuel source too from this static jet. So it just gets fuel from there, air from there, so it's got fuel and air, rich mixture. It'll start and then start to flood instantly, and then you start to back off the float, back off the choke, and it pushes this in until you don't need choke any longer, and it sits on a rubber gasket shutting that off. So there's no fuel coming from here, and there's no air coming from there at all. The air passageway also opens into the slide, and it lifts the slide temporarily to also get fuel from here. So you've actually started your carburetor off pulling fuel from the intake, from the pilot jet and the master, the main, and by using the choke. And as you close it off, it shuts it off, and then starts the carburetor to start using its own resources rather than through the choke area. The important thing about these is, one, it still has a needle on it. It's not unusual, but the important thing is to have that to make sure that seat is actually closing off on there. Otherwise you'll have an air leak. An air leak, you won't be able to get a tune. And the rubber seal looks good. It looks like it's closing off. You'll know because you'll push it in and you'll be blowing air through here with the jet later, and you'll go shh, and you'll be able to hear it actually cut off. But the actual black part was loose on the aluminium. I don't think they've been stripped out this far. And that's it. There's nothing else to take off. All the rest of it, I can see quite a bit of brownie gunk inside the coolant tube. I don't know if you remember when I took the hoses off, I found a little filter or a one-way valve type thing. We're not sure exactly what it is, because in the parts fiche, in the parts description, it doesn't tell you what it is. It tells you coolant manifold, and it refers back to another part. it doesn't have it separated in the parts breakdowns I can see. So I've still got some research to do on to find out what it is. But when I jetted water through it, a black brownie stain came out of it initially, and then it came clean. So I have a feeling it's some sort of one-way filter or a filter of some sort. It definitely needs to be cleaned out, because obviously if that's blocked, that won't be coming through. You'll get one carburetor hotter than the others and no consistency through it, and therefore that's going to disrupt your tune as well. Just a vent tube, no need to go spastic on replacing O-rings on these. Again, an overflow or vent tube, that's all it does. A little plastic thing directs the vent down towards the bottom. That's all it does. I'll get the next section out. Now we're mindful that we've got the little spring in here. We've also got two little spaces in the middle section. I'll just gently pull those out. One's dropped, the other one's dropped. They're just little spaces, obviously go one way. A little nib on the carburetor tells you which way it goes. I'm just going to make it really fun to put back together. Nothing special. The long coolant tube. You can see a little bit better on that one how brown the coolant is inside. It's clean, it's clear. Again, same O-rings, they're all proud, really hard to pull out, and there should be a fuel. There is, and of course this little spring, which will just disappear. Put that in there as well. And we'll just make sure there's nothing else in here. One thing I've got to check is on these mixture screws normally, and I haven't looked as yet. Sometimes when we have these mixture screws out, there's the mixture screw, there's the spring that goes over it, then there's a flat washer that goes over that, and then there's an O-ring to stop any air leaking through that screw. Now they haven't come out, and they may still be in there. I can't see them in the new kits. Yes I can, so they're definitely in there. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Right in the bottom corner is a tiny little washer. Alright, so definitely inside each one of these carburetors is inside where the mixture screw goes, is, you can kind of almost pick it up there, the silvery reflection of that little washer and an O-ring. So they need to come out before we put them in there, but they can be really hard to get out, so we'll do that in a sec. Choke. Look at these. Choke bounces up, spring's good. Washer's good. It doesn't want to come off the end there. I don't want to force it, because that there too is an air seal. No need to force it. It does nothing else, just holds it there, holds the spring on. That's fine, nothing in there. I can see all the brown stain inside where the coolant channel goes, right through the middle of the carburetor. That'll all clean up. Nothing else to come out, no other air bleeds. That's that one. Definitely the wrong way around. And we'll split the last two. Now we've got the spring through that may come in here. We've got a couple of spaces to remember. The spring. They're actually pretty good held on. Some ones I've done have just drop and then they just roll off. Coolant tube, fuel tube. Just a vent, it's not split or anything like that. That's fine. Float vent, that's fine. Grab this little spring out. Choke. It's going to be interesting. I know, got to open it. And it's not real tight, but I'd say, you know, you've been in a bit of plastic, it's been heated up and cooled down, heated up and cooled down, and amongst the aluminium, you're not going to be tight. I don't think it would have caused a problem, but looks fine. Doesn't like there's anything in there. I won't bother taking that bracket off. I might just tighten this a bit so we don't lose it. These carburetors are pretty clean anyway, but I might as well go through the process. Stuck. There's a little bit stuck in there. That's alright, that would just been the angle while I was doing it. And we don't want to go dipping the throttle sensor either. So that's got some more to do with the X-up. Yeah, I can see those rubbers and the little metal washer inside those, so we'll take those out next. Now I need an anti-tamper Allen key for taking this off. I'll grab that, and I'll grab a pick to grab the washer and O-rings out. Okay, where's that anti-tamper? It's basically an Allen key with a star with a hole on it. Would have freaked the old guys out when they first started seeing these. Oh, there's more tools I have to buy. There's always fucking more tools you got to buy. Always. Now it's about halfway, I remember that. You'll also have witness marks of where the screws are, and there may be, do some research, and there may be there will have to be a way of setting it up anyway, so we'll go through that later. Get the sensor off. That seems to be not in the wrong place. It's interesting. So okay, that's the sensor. That's just a plastic piece. I'm just going to leave that there and get cleaned up in there, and I'll just put these screws back in. really matters because they're the only ones that came out. And that's our exit for our water coolant. So there's nothing in there that's going to cause any drama. No. Now I've got this little tiny little screwdriver that hopefully I'll be able to pick these washer and O-ring out. Right, the washers come out and the O-ring come out. Yeah, I said they're tiny. Imagine doing all this work, putting it all back together and putting your new O-ring and washer on it, and then having double the amount of space on your mixture screw and not being able to get it leaned off properly. I know I've got new ones of those. I'm just going to put them in the corner of the plate over there, and that's one. I should be able to see daylight. Controls open through that. Go to the next one. Down. Flick it up. Get it into an area where it's come loose and verify it. Yep, there's one there and the O-ring. They just need to be moved and they pop off. Verify it. One, they come out fast too. Yep, they're there. It's been sitting in there so long that they're stuck. Yep, there we go. Wouldn't throw them out yet, because if you get the new ones and you're unpacking it, you drop one and you can't find it, you've still got one of the old ones to go back in, which is not going to cause drama at all. I just prefer to have the new ones. Cool. Well, they're stripped. I've got my parts washer going, so I might take one across at a time and just give it a quick clean up on the outside. And get all the major bits cleaned up, the bigger bits cleaned up, and then we'll put them in the Sonic, cook for a bit, get them out, blow them all off, and make sure all the galleries are cleaned out as well, blown out, and then we'll start reassembling them. Okay, so I've been to the parts washer, clean them all up. You don't put them virtually this clean inside the Sonic. It's going to do nothing but just dirty everything up and have sludge on the bottom. People will argue that putting them through a parts washer will actually, because you're recycling the fluid, is actually forcing or putting dirt back into them. But if you clean them off properly, wash them off with water afterwards, they look like this, which is so much better than what they did before. And these are not bad. They're not bad at all compared to some of the ones I've done. So, you know, I'm not going to have this problem. Dirty side down, because we want the Sonic to actually work into the parts that we can't get to. So we put them sort of dirty side down. The air side is fairly clean most of the time anyway, so I just put them like that. The only other thing I've done is I've taken out the little fuel drains out of the base of the float bowls, because if I leave them in there and you put them in the Sonic like that, it's just going to be air in there, and this is where we want it to clean. That one's on the side anyway, but the other ones are laying flat. Try not to have too many parts touching each other. These are friggin' spotless anyway. I'm just going to drop them on top of the fuel bowls, which are pretty clean anyway. That's it like that. This is at 60 degrees, 55 it's flashing at the moment. Put it up. I'll move you around a bit so you can see a bit better. Okay, it looks like it's cooked. Important thing is all the throats, everything are nice and clean. And we start blowing out ports, making sure nothing sits in there. Let's grab the yellow one. Consider it as a block of sides. All I do is consistently do one side. I'll turn it round to the air inlet, and then what I want to do is I want to make sure that all those little holes have got a repeat. You can hear when it's blocked and you can hear when it's not. Side. To the bottom. Vent holes right in the bottom there. And then start working on the jets. Same with the top. outside. We want to make sure that all the tiny little holes, and especially around where the mixture screw comes up into the throat chamber there, you can't quite see the hole. You slow down it and you can feel it. It's usually right on where the butterfly is closed. So right on where that bottom of that butterfly closes, where that port comes out, there's a tiny little hole, and we just need to make sure that's clear. There's a little rubber seal that goes in there. Just blew it out with the leave it. Be consistent, do the same for everyone. Pretty much faultless. Just loaded the tray up with the bigger items that won't fall through, and we'll hit them for half an hour. The plastic things will probably just float. They'll get some sort of clean. I don't want to do the slides they're really clean except for the grittiness I can feel on the rubbers, but you can actually perish or quicker to perishing the rubbers, so we'll just leave those and I'll clean those by hand with some brake cleaner and that. The plastic covers really, you know, they're clean anyway. We might as well sink them in there. It'll get a bit of muck off the top, I suppose. And there's plenty of room. There's nothing else. You can put these rubbers in. 4 of them. I don't want to put the little filtered gauze in. I'm not sure if there's any. I can see a gauze in there, but I'm not sure if there's any like paper or anything like that in them. So we just leave them out, won't matter anyway. And we'll give it another half an hour.